Hey everyone, it's Allie, and today we have some pretty massive updates for the build that we need to go over. Basically, we found a way to double the damage of the build, while at the same time, we now have direction for what kind of uniques we want to farm for the build, and what our end game is going to most likely look like. To give you a quick TLDR of that, to get you excited for what's going to come, previously in the build, we had about 27,000 EHP with the setup that we were currently running, and well, we're now going to push to 91,000 EHP. We found a way to gain a lot of damage. It's going to be really fun, but this is going to be something that's going to take me several days to put together, test, validate, and find a way to explain to everyone. So do keep in mind that that's not going to be something we're discussing for a while. I do highly recommend for you to come by our stream and see how the progress is going to go if you want to join on the theory crafting and see how all of it gets put together. But all this will eventually be updated in the build guide once it's ready to go. On top of that, I now know some of the unique items that we're going to want to potentially consider running in the build. So it's time to talk about them and give you some direction on some of the things that you might want to farm. The first thing that we are most likely going to want to go and grab ourselves is going to be a Brewmaster's buckle. Basically, every belt just kind of sucks. There's only void damage that we can get on our belts, and while sure there's a Viper Tail, which is a pretty decent DPS increase, I'm not really a fan of anything else, and Brewmaster just kind of fits every single niche that we need. The 10% of max health gain as endurance threshold for 4 seconds when you use a potion is great. Every time you use a potion as a oh no button, you just become tankier for 4 seconds, which is great. The vitality is amazing because it just gives us extra health, and then the endurance is really nice because you will be able to drop the endurance roll on your ring. On top of this, getting legendary potential on our Brewmasters is really easy, with you having a 1 in 4 chance every time it drops to get 1 LP and a 1 in 28 chance to get 2 LP. Honestly, I'd highly recommend to go and farm a 2 LP Brewmasters, as it is a guaranteed drop from the Grand Brewery Woven Echo. And if you want to farm a lot of this, what I'd recommend for you to do is to go over to your woven tree and to pick up both woven riches and loomed riches, and then to take your Grand Brewery Woven Echo and to put it in here, so that every time you progress your monoliths, you just have a chance to just randomly see Grand Breweries pop up, which you can go do, and every time you do it, because the boss drops a guaranteed belt, you just have a chance for 2 belts. Now, for the LP on the Brewmasters, what I'd recommend for you to do is to go and put hybrid health and percent health on it. While yes, you could put CDR, I'm really not a fan of it. We honestly have way too much CDR in the build. The extra CDR really, it doesn't feel that impactful. You can put on a 1 LP Brewmasters in the meanwhile while you farm a 2 LP one if you'd like to. And if you are going to use a 1 LP one, you simply would just go for just percent health on it. But ideally, your endgame belts is most likely going to be a hybrid health and percent health 2 LP Brewmasters. The other item that's worth considering as a upgrade is going to be Atrophy. Now, at first, I really didn't like Atrophy, and I still am not the biggest fan of it because using a normal pair of gloves is just better. But Atrophy gives you some around the 30% DPS increase, and if you can manage to put them on, if you can fix their resistances and whatnot, they really aren't that bad. You can farm Atrophy by simply doing the Black Sun area, and they drop off of the boss inside the Black Sun, so simply just keep running this area and farm it, and you can get yourself a 1 LP version of them fairly easily. If you do go and grab yourself one, I highly recommend for the LP you put on them to be hybrid health, as we really don't need more damage. They're already better than a pair of gloves with damage over time on them, and with the doubling of our damage that we're about to do in this video, really don't need even more damage. So hybrid health is going to be your best option to, well, make up for the fact that you lose a lot of HP from losing an exalted pair of gloves. Now with that, let's move on to the main show of today's video, how exactly we double our damage. So what we need to first discuss is how ailments work. Now normally ailments have their own base damage, and that's all they scale off of, and what we learned today is that they also scale off of any sort of more multipliers that the skill that you apply them with has. For example, on Hammer Throw, Force of Impact gives us 30% more damage, meaning any time rod applied by Hammer Throw is just going to do 30% more damage. At the same time, anything that refers to hits does not work. So for example, Overwhelm gives you more hit damage, which would not increase your time rod damage. What this means is we just want to go find whatever skill is the highest total multiplier skill and use that in place of Smite as our new single target damage skill. To cut it short, Hammer Throw is by far the single best skill because we have weighted hammers for 75% more damage, Ballista for 18% more damage, Force of Impact for 30, Collision for 50, and then through 4 projectiles and catapults, another 40% from Ricochet. Now, what's special about these is that you don't add them up together. You don't add up the 50% from Collision with 75% from weighted hammers. You multiply them. So you multiply your damage by 1.75 and then multiply it again by 1.5 to be able to put these together. The point is, Hammer Throw ends up being like 400% more damage in the end, which is substantially higher than the 250% that we got from Smite and Sacrifice. With this, you're going to be able to generate substantially bigger total time rots on single target damage, and your playstyle is going to be exactly the same as it was before. You're simply just going to keep playing the build like normal while mapping, and then you're simply going to press Hammer Throw instead of Smite whenever you come across some sort of boss. The really good thing about Hammer Throw is because we get Ricochet and it gives +1 chain. If you ever do something like Cemeteries where, you know, there's like 5 or 6 rares stacked up together, well, the chain just makes you clear them a little bit faster, which is kind of cute and fun. In terms of your stats, literally nothing is changing. You now don't suddenly want throwing damage. You don't want anything else. You are changing nothing about your build. Everything's staying the same, with the only exception being that you might now want to look for a +4 hammer throw relic instead. If we do get that, we can get ourselves a decent amount of extra DPS by getting ourselves more points in force of impact, but it's a very minor deal and you don't have to worry too much about it. The other thing that we're going to change about our build is we're going to swap out Sigils of Hope for Abyssal Echoes instead. Abyssal Echoes, through Embrace the Darkness, Abyssal Tendrils, and Crumbling, just gives you an absurd multiplier. And we're now going to go back and take Hollow Cascade on Volatile Reversal to automatically have it cast for us. The cool thing about this is that it does trigger Embrace the Darkness because it counts as a direct cast, meaning that you do not even need to put Abyssal Echoes on your bar. That means we have an extra point left over. So instead of just leaving it open, you can either run Rebuke or Vengeance as a defensive option if you prefer. Rebuke is simply a channel button that, while held down, you just take 80% less damage, meaning if you just want to AFK inside of a boss ability, you could just use Rebuke to do so. It's really cute, really fun. You could use it if you want to. Don't if you don't want to. It's completely up to you. And it's just, well, there because it can be. The final change we're making to put all this together as well, given we're dropping Symbols of Hope, which is substantially weaker than Abyssal Echoes when it comes to total DPS. We don't need all those points in Paladin, which is doing anything in the first place. We are going to keep 5 points of Defiance because it's really good, but we're now going to be able to come to base Sentinel Tree and go pick up 5 points in Blademaster, which through Rock Grip is an absurd amount of extra DPS. On top of that, we're now going to need to pick up Essence of the End to generate Void Essences and Void Well, which then consume our Void Essences if you ever hit 0 mana to gain 30% of our maximum mana pool back. This is absolutely required when it comes to being able to sustain the mana cost of Hollow Cascade. You're still going to need the mana regen roll on your ring, and you're still going to need the 2 mana efficiency rolls on your idols, so that's not changing at all. But you are now going to also need to pick up Void Well to be able to handle all the mana. With this, you will literally never have any mana problems ever again in the future. But if you wanted to be even more comfortable, if it doesn't feel comfortable for you, you can always swap out your Rhythm of the Tide and the Ending of the Storm for a Grand Light of the Moon, which gives you flat mana, and given this is up to 90 total mana, that's quite a lot of extra mana, making Void Well overall even stronger, given it's 30% of your maximum mana pool. The written guide is updated with all this, so all you really have to do is just come over to the written guide and go over to the skill section and just simply move the sliders around and see exactly how we put together the passage tree and look at exactly how we put together the skills. I'd highly recommend to look at all of them, as we made some tiny changes to everything, including Devorb, and I'd highly recommend for you to read through everything here, as I did spend 3 hours reworking the guide to fit in Hammer Throw instead of Smite. There's also a Q&A section all the way at the bottom of the build guide that talks about some of the most frequently asked questions, where you might get a little bit more context on exactly what we're going to be doing here. Finally, to give you something actionable for you to work towards if you would like to, while we figure out the whole EHP thing I talked about at the beginning of the video and how exactly all that's going to be put together, what you're going to want to get, which we know we're going to need in our build outside of getting Atrophy and getting your Brewmasters, is to go out and specifically farm a Bastion of Honour. This is going to be the backbone of our new defensive layers, which, yes, this means we're dropping the 3 set. We are not dropping a 2 set. We're still going to keep our sword. We're still going to keep our amulets, but we are just going to drop the 3 set because with the Hammer Throw changes, we are doing substantially more damage now. And well, you're going to want to grab yourself one of these. Now, you are going to need one with 1 legendary potential on them. Don't worry about it for now. We'll talk about it when we're ready to talk about it. But for now, your goal in the mid game should be to go and farm yourself a Bastion. If you're in Merchant's Guild, you should be able to buy this for pretty dirt cheap. But if you're in Circle Fortune, you're going to have to get it yourself, which is pretty easy to do. With this, just hold on to your 1 LP Bastion of Honour. Again, we'll discuss this in the future. And, well, get ready to become very, very tanky. If you have any questions on this, I highly recommend for you to go read through the written guide, as I put a lot of effort into rewriting all of it for Hammer Throw. And if there's anything that doesn't answer for you, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, or come by Twitch and ask me your questions there. I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. With all that said, kitties, I hope you enjoy doing substantially more damage with Hammer Throw. I hope you enjoy the few upgrades that we discussed, and I hope to see you by my Twitch when we do some theory crafting to make Bastion of Honour an absurd tank item. With all that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.